Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome. My name is Meredith. I'm one of the academic advisors here at Woodsworth College Registrar's office, and I just want to welcome you all to today's workshop. If you've been with us throughout the summer, we've been through a lot together. If you haven't, there are recordings, and I can share that in a moment about where you can find them. But yeah, this workshop is all about financial matters, and we have a really special one here because we also have Yvonne Hilder to come and chat with us about, yeah, the financial piece with being a student within the Faculty of Arts and Science within Woodsworth College. So I'm joined here today with Yvonne, but also Sam and Sarah. We're all here from the Registrar's office. Our role is really comes from the academic point of view. Just know that we're here for any questions that you might have. If it's about program enrollment or course enrollment, if it's about fees, and this kind of support starts now and it goes until throughout the term, throughout next year, but also throughout your 4 years. Just know that we're always here to answer your questions, and no question is a silly question because I think the biggest thing we want to emphasize with these workshops is that having information is really important for making the decisions and and actions throughout your whole time as a University of Toronto student. So just to go over some of the things we talked about, let me share my screen. So one thing that we have put together is called the Welcome to Woodsworth Quercus page. So Quercus, if you haven't gone into it yet, that you already have access to it. And Quercus is actually the learning platform which your classes will have like a component to. It's where you can go for your course syllabi. Right now, you're already in the Welcome to Woodsworth Quercus site. This is a little bit of a mini course. It's helpful to go through it. There's 9 modules. And so we set up a lot of information. So right up at the top here, it says workshops and Q&A schedule. So the workshops, we have workshop 1, which was all about different departments, different offices that are here within the Faculty of Arts and Science, within the university, and just like all the different people here that you can go to for support. So it's a nice little welcome, like a nice little, you get to meet some really great people who you can go to, like with the Writing Center, accessibility services. So there's some really great resources there just to get a taste of what's here. Workshop 2 was all about those big picture goals that we're trying to accomplish here as a degree student. So those degree requirements. And then workshop 3 was course selection. So hopefully, like course selection, the first day for course selection for first year students was July 17th. So hopefully you're all set up at this point in time. If not, reach out to us and we can get you all set up. But course selection was a big part. And just know at this point, you can still make little tweaks here and there up until September. You want to prioritize the courses you need for program, but little tweaks can still be made. So now we're here at workshop 4. The other thing I like to highlight here in the Welcome to Woodsworth is the summer to-do list. So the summer to-do list has some really, there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to think about. And so to help make some things easier, we've divided up some tasks throughout the month. So we've been through June. We're on our way at the end of July. So I like to start thinking about August, and right up at the top here is pay or defer your fees by August 12th. And how convenient. This is what our workshop is all going to be about. So you're already on the right track. You're already learning so much about it. But that is an important date. In here, there's also some really great things, the University Prep mini course. So if you're feeling like you would like to just learn some stuff about the university, this is a program that's set up through the Center for Learning Strategy Support, just like going over how do I study, how do I plan, organizing, practicing consistency over perfection. That is a really good mindset to just start reframing how you approach school and grades and because it's all going to be a new learning environment. So these might be really helpful. We also have the Arrive Ready, which is offered through the Faculty of Arts and Science. Again, you're already so university prep course, you do need to sign up for it. So just note that ahead of time. But Arrive Ready, this you're already in as well. It's a great place Oh, I'm not in the right spot. Arrive ready here. Basically, there's a mentorship component. So if you, or a mentor component where you can ask questions, but then starting this week, there's been learning modules. And so the learning modules are nice because you get a flavor for university, um, how university lectures work. So this is where I was before. This one is led, this is, so it's divided up by admission category. So each admission category has a different learning module. And you can kind of, we all know that you're busy, like you have summer plans and whatnot. So you can check in when you want. But what's nice is that it gives you an idea of what it's like to be at a university level lecture. There's practice quizzes, academic prep material. And so this one is led by Professor John Rogers, but there's different ones for different admission categories. So that's most of what I wanted to talk about. The other thing I want to highlight is orientation. So orientation is also kind of something we're starting to think about as well. Down here, Woodsworth orientation. So Woodsworth has its own orientation that you can be part of. At this point, tickets are on sale. So it's taking place August 25th to August 31st. If it's something that you want to participate, there's some really great activities. Just note that you do need to purchase the tickets to take part in it. And so there's like a rough there's a rough schedule here. There's things like, I think, a trip to the ROM. There's a fitness workshop. There's a block party, film screening, and it ranges from low intensity to high intensity things. So there's a little bit for everyone. You don't necessarily have to go to each one. You can pick and choose and whatnot, but you do need to purchase the ticket. Along that lines is that there's other orientation activities on campus as well. I always like to highlight this because there's the accessibility services orientation event. This one's August 18th and 19th. Accessibility services, it's good to know that there's a lot of offices, a lot of services on campus, but accessibility services is the one that you actually need to opt in. And so if you've used accommodations in the past, or maybe you feel like you could benefit from it, feel free to research it. The deadline to have it ready for your first day has passed, but that doesn't mean you can't still reach out to them. Just know that August 18th and 19th, there's orientation with them. And then I also like to highlight other orientations on campus, like transfer student orientation or Black student orientation, queer orientation, Indigenous student orientation, orientation for students with family responsibilities, or mature student welcome. And these are great because maybe you're a transfer student and you want to make connections with someone who also is a transfer student. So these are great opportunities to meet people who might be going through similar, like looking for similar community on campus and whatnot. So I've talked a lot, and believe it or not, I am close to the end, but we're going to transition to Yvonne speaking and whatnot. But Yvonne, I also want to highlight that Yvonne will talk a lot about some things that are covered in Module 7. So we're kind of at the Module 7 stage in the Welcome to Woodsworth. I know for a fact that Yvonne will be referring to the fees and finances checklist. So if you are wanting additional information, which is always good in my opinion, take a look at this fees and finance checklist. That'll make sure that you're covering a lot of the key things that you'll need to cover. Now, without further ado, thank you for sticking with me through that introduction. Let me introduce Yvonne. Take it away, Yvonne.
Thank you, Meredith. And hello, everybody who's joining us on this hot July morning. At least it's going to be hot here in Toronto. But I'm really happy that you're here. And I also want to start by emphasizing what Meredith just said, which is that you should please take the time to go through those various modules on the amazing Quercus site, which is available not just in the summer, but during your time here at U of T. So perhaps you're going to forget something. You know, it's October. You can dive back into all of that invaluable information, and you should refer back. It is a really handy resource. And speaking of resources, I also just want to emphasize the role of the Woodsworth College Registrar's Office as your first stop with questions. So there are 20 of us here in the office. Most of our advisors take care of academic matters, but there are other supports available. I am the main person who helps out with financial aid or financial questions. But we also have incredible frontline advisors who may be the people helping you. So, this presentation today is going to cover in fairly broad strokes some of the things that you need to know related to paying your fees, looking for work. I'll talk a little bit about grants and scholarships. But it's by no means comprehensive. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. But it's very possible that may need to refer you to other offices on campus. And I will chat a little bit about that as we go through the slides. And right now I'm going to go off camera so you can focus on those slides. So, who am I? Well, officially, I am the awards officer, but really, I'm that staff member who helps Woodsworth College students with money matters. I can assist you with any questions that you might have about your student loans, and I can also answer questions and guide you to applying for non-repayable grants. I can explain your tuition fees. We'll talk a little bit about dates and deadlines. A very popular topic for most students is what I call appropriate employment. Many students work part-time in their upper years at U of T, but most will be working full-time during those summer breaks. I can also help you with information about scholarships and awards. And then really, really important and sort of an umbrella for what I do is financial advising. But part of that is budgeting for student-related expenses. So budgeting for paying for the things that you need to cover while you're registered. So let's get started with key dates and deadlines. And if there's one part of this module that you take notes during, it is this one. So right off the top, for the fall of 2025, as Meredith already highlighted, in order to finalize your registration, you may need to either make the required minimum payment, or if you're getting a government student loan, such as OSAP, if you're from Ontario, you need to take action on August 12th to finalize that registration. So this is critical. If you do not take the required steps, it's possible that you may lose the courses that you so carefully selected last week. So please take the required steps on August 12th. Once the fall term begins, there's something that you should know. If you haven't paid all of your fall term fees, service charges will be applied on October 15th. So because it takes some time for funds to get from one bank account, especially an international bank account, into your student account at U of T, we do recommend that students clear the rest of their fall term fees by the 30th of September. Those service charges are automatic. They are 1.5% compounded monthly, so not so bad on a small amount of fees, but on larger fees, especially international fees, that amount can add up fast. And then we get to November. So you should endeavor to pay your winter term fees by the 30th of November to avoid those winter term service charges that begin September 15th. That's for students who don't have a tuition fee deferral. In other words, non-domestic students who do not have a student loan. And then there's similar dates in the winter term. But right now we're just going to focus on the fall. One office that I really want you to take the time to look at their website for is student accounts. There is a lot of invaluable information here. When students reach out to our office and they have questions about their tuition fees, how to make fee payments, etc., we will often refer them to the student accounts website. So, like I said, very, very detailed info, tuition and refunds, how to make those fee payments, because it can be different depending on where you're sending the money from. More details about those service charges I just referred to. Some people may qualify for a tuition fee deferral, either based on having a student loan or possibly having a sponsorship or band funding. Some students may have a large scholarship, which covers more than just the minimum payment. There's lots of details about tuition fee deferrals, which don't change the amount that you need to pay, but it gives you a little bit more flexibility with the dates. And then for late in the winter term, there will be information about taxes. So please take some time to review the large quantity of information available on the student accounts website. The next thing that I want to cover are various types of funding. So students and their families pay their tuition fees and living expenses in a variety of ways. It's very common for there to be multiple sources of financial support. So some people will use their savings. That might be, especially within Canada, there's a practice of having something called a Registered Education Savings Plan, or RESP. These are funds that families have saved that will in turn be matched by various government programs. Now is the time to figure out how to get that money out of those accounts and use it to pay for part of the tuition and living expenses. I will say that some of these RESPs require proof of registration, sometimes printing out a copy of your invoice from Acorn is sufficient. Some of these plans require a letter from our office, but now is the time to figure it out. Again, because August 12th is just around the corner, and you'll need those funds, if you have them, to pay the fees. Most students at Woodsworth College from within Canada will have a government student loan from their province. This is typically the largest source of financial support. And like I say at the bottom of this slide, more than 50% of the domestic students at Woodsworth have such a government loan. Those who do not may have sought out a student line of credit from the bank. Just to emphasize that a student line of credit is different than a personal line of credit. So if you and your family are applying for a student line of credit, either to supplement or replace a government student loan, make sure you're asking for the right one. Line of credits require that there be a co-signer, but you want to really pay careful attention to the fine print on that agreement and manage those funds very carefully because, of course, you do need to repay them and they will be subject to interest. I referred briefly to sponsorships. So this could be from a government outside of Canada for some students, like some governments sponsor students to travel to other countries and seek their education, or it might be from a third party. One example of third-party sponsorship is band funding. So if you're an Indigenous student, your band may be providing funding for education. You will need to provide the University of Toronto with evidence of this, typically a letter, and then the Office of Student Accounts can help you to defer your fees and then get a copy of your official invoice to your band, and then in terms fund, and then in turn they will pay the invoice. This is the kind of thing that can get a little bit complicated because you're managing contact with multiple offices. So please don't hesitate to reach out to the registrar's office if you need our help with that. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about those larger sources of primary financial aid. For most students, that's a government student loan. Within Ontario, this will be the Ontario Student Assistance Program, otherwise known as OSAP. And this is a student loan, and in some cases may also be a grant, a non-repayable grant. It's usually a combination that students in Ontario have to apply for directly. So you go to the OSAP website, you complete the application, and this can be for both full-time and if you're part-time, it can be for part-time funding. Pay careful attention to the information module that you're required to do the first time you apply, and make it a habit to log in to that OSAP website just to make sure that there aren't any messages or required steps to be completed. The funding will not be released until you've completed the application. And it can take a number of weeks. So we advise students to typically apply in May or June. It's not too late right now, but it can take 4 to 6 weeks to get the assessment. The assessment is the document that tells you how much of a student loan you're going to get. And then remember, if you're getting a student loan and you've completed the application, then you need to defer your tuition fees to register on August 12th. If you're a Canadian student from another province or territory, there is the equivalent of OSAP. For example, I'm originally from British Columbia, and when I was in university, I had to apply for BC Student Aid. So you should find the appropriate student loan, do the application, and then follow through with the required steps. Those student loans assist with both the cost of tuition and basic living expenses. And I use the word basic because they're not going to cover all of the expenses related to living in Toronto. It's quite an expensive city. So you are going to need supplemental or secondary sources of financial support, which I'll get into a little later. For most students, OSAP or the other provincial loans consist of both repayable loans that you need to repay after you stop being a full-time student, and in some cases, non-repayable grants. Like I said before, you need to apply now. If you are from the United States, there are a variety of US student loans that you can apply for. You do need to manage this now. There will be supporting documentation required. And again, it can take some time to obtain that funding. Some students have a student line of credit. And international students looking for financial support should first inquire from their home countries, whether seeking funding from their home country's government, or in some case from your family bank. If you're looking for help with applying for any of these North American student loans, an office that is a great resource that I refer to constantly is the University Registrar's Office, over the U or known as the URO. The URO is the main financial aid slash OSAP slash admissions office at the University of Toronto. So it's very common for us to send students there for help from their staff. I also recommend, oh, sorry, Meredith, jump back. I also recommend that if you're looking for information about your student loan, that you start by checking your student loan website. There is usually an email address there for assistance. And again, just to wrap it up on this slide, the expertise for more complex financial aid matters at University of Toronto is at the University Registrar's Office. This is different than the Woodsworth College Registrar's Office. And now a little bit about those secondary or supplemental sources of financial support that we offer. The largest one is the University of Toronto's Advanced Planning for Students, or UTAPS grant. This grant is for full-time domestic students. Once you have your Canadian student loan in place, then you need to apply for the UTAPS grant every year. The applications are open now. And just really important to note that the amount of the amount of UTAPS grant that you may qualify for varies. Typically, you apply in the summer and you will find out the results of this application late in the fall. So usually before the end of October. Another grant that many students apply for once they've obtained their government student loan and then the UTAPS grant is the undergraduate grant. So the undergraduate grant application is available on Acorn in early October. This is not something you need to repay. And you apply if your government student loan is sufficient or if you have an emergency or unforeseen circumstance. Normally, you do have to have a Canadian student loan in place first, but there are some exceptions, and you can speak to me about those one-on-one. It's very common when students apply for this grant, which is available only while you are a registered student. It's very common that after submitting that application that I will reach out. I might send you a quick email just asking to clarify a couple things, or I may ask you to have a meeting with me. That's a good thing. Sometimes I'm looking for supporting documentation, but more often than not, I just want to make sure that the application is ready and that we have all the information we need so that when I go to the grant committee and present the application on your behalf, that they don't ask me any questions that I'm not able to answer. So my role is really to help you with this application and make sure that it's good to go. This will very likely be something that you apply for annually if you're a domestic student, because like I said before, those domestic student loans are not designed to pay for everything. So the undergraduate grant is something that you should be watching out for and applying for. Yes, one of my absolute favorite topics is employment while you're a student. Many students at the University of Toronto are working. And one of the ways that they find that work, either full-time work during that 4-month summer break, very important, or in some cases, part-time work, usually on campus. During upper years. I don't usually recommend that students be working part-time in their first year. That critical first year is a time of adjustment. But the Career Learning Network can help you find those jobs both on and off campus. We really like the on-campus jobs because that's, a location close to where you're already going to campus for your classes. And the CLNx also has information about the really important volunteer opportunities. So one of the ways that most people sort of build up their experience so that they qualify for jobs or so that they can enrich their educational experience is by volunteering. I can't emphasize this enough. It can also be where you find your people, right? Like one of the things that many first-year students are worried about is, how am I going to make friends? Well, sometimes that is about, volunteering and giving back to the community, and in turn, building your own community. The CLNx offers many, many workshops, including preparing resumes, helping to get ready for interviews, how to network, make connections. They provide advising and mentorship. Of course, they have job postings, and they have information about the amazing work study program. So the University of Toronto has a program called Work Study, which is jobs on campus, whether it's in departments or the library, or in some cases, registrar's offices or other offices on campus. Sometimes work study would be working as a research assistant for a professor. And the best thing about work study is that these jobs are, they have to, how shall we say this, meet very specific criteria. And those criteria are that the students are working no more than 10 to 12 hours a week, which is the sort of sweet spot for a full-time student. You need the time to focus on your courses. They do pay minimum wage, but the work study program ends before the final exam period in the winter term. So you don't have to worry about work study positions clashing with your more important responsibilities. And of course, no other employer is going to be as understanding about your schedule and the importance of your classes than the university itself. So second year and beyond, take some time to look at the Career Learning Network and check out the work study program. Just a few things that I may have already touched on, and these are my own sort of strong recommendations if you're going to be working while you are a full-time student. Number one, when you're looking for work, make sure that job is close to either where you live or close to where you're studying. You do not want to add a third location that you're traveling to. That will make you tired, and that will mean you're spending more money on transportation than you should be. So find something close to where you already are. I already talked about the work study program. It's amazing. Like with the work study program, we do not recommend that part-time work be more than 10 to 12 hours a week. You really need to take the time to focus on studying. And if you're an international student, we encourage you to check in with the staff at the Center for International Experience. You need to get some more information about the requirements and regulations and your work permits. It is possible for you to work on campus, but you just want to really read the fine print and see, what you should be doing in terms of work. And just to end on my little chat about employment with some information about OSAP and those other Canadian provincial and territorial student loans. There is an expectation built within the student loan formula that students and their families contribute financially. So when they're calculating the amount that they're going to give you as a loan and possibly a grant, there is an expectation that you be working full time during the 4 months of the summer and saving money for the next academic year. So as you're planning your degree, you should factor this in. And if you're going to be looking for work for summer 2026, you should start looking for work usually in January or February, planning well in advance. And again, going to the Career Learning Network for help with that is strongly advised. Another topic that I help with are scholarships. And scholarships are those awards that recognize your amazing academic achievement. So those really high grades usually. At Woodsworth College, we recognize and award the scholarships based on grades achieved the previous academic year. That's the case for students who have just been admitted, like you. I will say that most of our admissions scholarships have already been distributed. They would have been given out with the offer letter. We do have a very small number that we'll hand out in September once we know who's registered and who has a student loan. So it is possible if you're a domestic student and you didn't receive an admissions award that you still may get one. but there's nothing you can do. You just have to kind of wait and see. But keep in mind that most students at the college are not given an admissions award. We really prioritize what we call in-course awards. And in-course awards are those scholarships that are given out for students who have completed 5 credits at the University of Toronto. And this would be for your upper years, so second year and above. Now, the reason that most of our scholarships require that you have a student loan in place is because a lot of our scholarships have not only a high academic achievement as part of the criteria, but also financial need. And the only way that you can demonstrate financial need is by having a student loan in place. So if you're on the fence about applying for OSAP, maybe you have some savings, maybe you think that you can, manage to cover those expenses for the first year or beyond, applying for the student loan is may give you some access to scholarships as well. So I can talk to you about this one-on-one if you need more details. Scholarships and awards are typically very modest in value. They're not going to fund all of your tuition. The average award, usually between $500 and $1,000. It's quite competitive to get them because we have a very large student population at Woodsworth College. We are one of the largest colleges on campus, and many students will have very, very high grades. So if you don't receive an in-course award, it's not because you're not doing well. It's just because some people are doing better. There is a list of awards available for all U of T students on a searchable database called Awards Explorer, something definitely worth looking at. And while most of our awards are given automatically in January for in-course awards based on grades achieved the previous year, most of them are automatic. There is a very small number that do require application. So for your upper years, just make note of this, that the Woodsworth Scholarship application opens the 15th of September. It will ask you a few questions about, for example, your volunteer work. If you wish to self-identify, we do have awards specifically, for example, for student parents or for those students who are part-time who are working quite a bit. Just keep in mind that that application is available, but it's only for that small number of awards. Scholarships are quite complicated. There are various places you can apply for them. So you may want to book a meeting with me once you get settled in your classes to talk about how you can apply for or qualify for awards in your upper years. Another thing that I really like to meet with students and talk to them about is budgeting. And so this is a life skill. It's a critical life skill. I'm sure that your family has told you this. And you really do need to plan ahead. So one amazing resource that all students have access to at the University of Toronto is the Financial Planning Calculator. So check this tool out. It's a really good first step in figuring out how much you need and giving you a snapshot of what your financial resources are. I do recommend that you create a budget at the start of each academic year to estimate your expenses for the 8 months of the fall/winter. You do need to include both fixed and variable costs, and you should be budgeting for those kind of nice to haves like entertainment, time away with friends, that kind of thing. And remember that things change. So you should be updating your budget as you sort of go through the first few months at U of T. I would say that based on my experience working with students and as a human being in the world, that most budgets are overly optimistic. So please, revisit and keep an eye on them and expect that you're going to be using this tool and making changes. And this, like I said before, it's a critical life skill. So take some time this summer as well to have a financial discussion with your family. So, parents, if you're attending this session, please have that dinner table conversation now. Talk to your student about what the resources and expectations are surrounding the family financial plan. And as Meredith so greatly pointed out, please, please refer to the fees and financial checklist on Quercus. There's a lot of important information there. Lastly, I just want to very briefly talk about unforeseen circumstances and emergencies. Well, we hope that everything will go really, really well with no problems during your 4 years or more at the University of Toronto. Sometimes things will happen that can impact your finances and your life. So I just want to emphasize that should something come up, please reach out to our office for help. If the emergency is impacting your finances, there may be financial support available. And the sooner we know, the faster we can assist you. And just to remember that everything that you share with our office is confidential. And that's it. Now we have a little bit of time for questions. Over to you, Meredith.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Okay, so before we go to questions, one thing I do want to highlight is we have another department, another office. So we have the Woodsworth is comprised of two different offices. So right now, I'm an academic advisor here at Woodsworth Registrar's office. Yvonne works at Registrar's office as well. But there's also another office called the Office of the Dean of Students, and they have a few messages that they wanted to share as well. So one is just highlighting some of the mentorship opportunities that are available for students. So CLN, Yvonne mentioned mentorship opportunities through CLNx. There are a variety of mentorship opportunities here on campus. It's just a decision of like what feels right for you. And the reason why mentorships can be helpful is because when we enter new spaces, it's nice to have a companion to kind of give you information about how to navigate a new system, navigate. And what the system that I'm talking about is the University of Toronto system. It's a new learning environment. There's we have our own policies and whatnot. So learning that from students who have already been through the first few years can be super helpful. And so some of us may have parents, some of us may have siblings or cousins or friends who've already gone to the University of Toronto, so they have an idea of what it's like. But for some of us, like for instance, when I came to the university, I didn't necessarily know very many people. So it's super helpful to just have an access point to upper year students. So if you're interested, right now, you are actually already connected to a summer e-mentorship opportunity through the Office of the Dean of Students. You can always reach out to them if you have like questions about orientation, about like, how should I go? Like they'll be able to like give you some tips, you know what I mean? Or maybe do I buy all the textbooks or where should I rest on campus and whatnot? There's Indigenous peer mentors as well. And then if you're interested in carrying this mentorship relationships throughout first year, just know that you can. It just requires you to apply for it. So that's one thing. The other thing I like to highlight is Woodsworth has a choir. That's wonderful. There's counseling and mental wellness support here, and then events. So there's lots of opportunities to connect with other Woodsworth students through the events that the Office of the Dean of Students hosts. So that's one thing. If you want to keep up to know, so here is a QR code to that first year program mentee application. But you can like connect with them through Instagram. Their website is there as well and through Facebook. Now, lastly, before we go to our Q&A session, I just want to highlight that we have our last workshop August 7th from 2 to 3:30. And this is a lot about entering into U of T with wellness in mind. We're going to have Amanda Lee come. She's going to share some information. We're actually going to also have a little presentation on generative AI. That is a huge thing that we need to cover. We need to, as a student, your responsibility is to know how to use this generative AI responsibly. So we're going to have a little bit of a presentation there. So I would definitely encourage coming because we are like, it is an important topic, a conversation. And so learning how to use that technology is super helpful. And then I'm going to prepare just some, as an academic advisor, just some things that I've noticed that we've noticed as a team about maybe some things, just like some quick, tangible to-do lists in your first few weeks about how you can prepare. So if you're interested in that at all, please feel free to join. The QR code there is for the registration link. Um, and as always, I like a little feedback survey. I like to know how you're feeling about this session. Um, so feel free to fill out that QR code right there. But that brings me to the end here. For anyone who is still here, we're going to transition to our Q&A session. For everyone who's watching, just know that thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. If there's any questions that you may have, the email is right here, wdwregistrar@utoronto.ca. It can be basically any questions that you may have, but it can also be questions directed to Yvonne as well about any questions that may have popped up during this presentation. All right. For everyone
Meredith,
sticking,
Meredith, can I
please
just,
go ahead.
yeah, I just want to take a minute to make a pitch for orientation. So, orientation is more than a party. Orientation may be where you meet your new best friend. Orientation may be where you have some fun, of course. There are amazing events, but there's also a lot of information that's going to be shared during the books of orientation. And it's a really an amazing way to get a head start on your time as a Woodsworth student. And if you're on the fence about going, please hear my voice and go. It's great. And I will be there. Thanks, Meredith.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you, Yvonne. I think that's super important. And I think it's also super important to know that like not all of us are high energy people. For the people who might be a little bit more low energy and afraid of that whole part, I would encourage you to go as well, just because it is a really great, everyone's there to meet someone. Everyone's there to, with being it's just a really great place for information and whatnot. So yeah, just echoing exactly what Yvonne is saying. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right. Thanks again. And everyone who's here, just stick around for a moment as I transition to our Q&A portion.